ToddYoungONLINE presents Young Tales. Tales for the young and the young at heart. Today's story from Bulfinch's Mythology, The Legends of Charlemagne. In this episode, the Peers of Charlemagne, or the Circle of the King. Now, before the clash of swords and before the thunder of tournaments and the madness of heroes, there stood Charlemagne, there stood around Charlemagne a company unlike any other in the world. They were called the Peers of France, not servants, not subjects, but equals bound by honor. And they were also known as the Paladins, companions of the palace, brothers of the king in all but crown. In Charlemagne's hall, rank bowed to valor and lineage yielded to loyalty. The title of peer meant equality, that no man stood above the rest, save by deed alone. The name Paladin spoke of closeness, men who slept beneath the same roof as the king, ate at his table, rode at his side in war, and shared his counsels in peace. They were not merely warriors. They were the living image of what knighthood ought to be. The poets and romancers of later ages always give their names alike, as if the circle itself were fixed by fate. Yet their number shifts like legend itself, for sometimes 12 are named, sometimes more, and sometimes fewer. But among them stand certain figures who cannot be forgotten, like Roland, the king's nephew. First among them was Roland, called Orlando by the Italians, the beloved nephew of Charlemagne, strong of arm, pure of heart, and terrible in battle. He was the soul of the peers, the measure against which all courage was weighed. Beside him stood Rinaldo of Montalban, Roland's cousin. Rinaldo and Orlando. I'm sorry. Roland's cousin, fierce, fiery, and unyielding, a knight whose pride matched his strength and whose quarrels would one day shake the empire itself. There was Namo, Duke of Bavaria, gray with wisdom and seasoned by years of war. There was Solomon, king of Brittany, ruler and warrior both, bringing the strength of the western seas to Charlemagne's cause. And there was Turpin, archbishop and knight, who bore both crosier and sword. In later ages, he would claim to have written the history of these deeds himself, and though his marvels strain belief, his presence reminds us that faith marched beside steel in the wars of Charlemagne. Among them rode Astolpho of England, bold, strange, and destined for wonders that would carry him beyond the earth itself. And with them walked Malagigi, the enchanter, master of spells and hidden knowledge, whose arts bent the laws of nature when swords could not. There was Ogier the Dane, a foreign prince bound to France by honor, whose story would span generations of loyalty and exile. And Florismart, true friend to Roland, whose name lives less in song, but no less in valor. But not all who stood near the king were worthy of the circle. Among those trusted by Charlemagne was Ganelon of Mayence, called Gano, fair of speech, skilled in flattery, and rotten at the core. Blinded by trust, the great emperor raised him high, never seeing that treachery often wears the mask of loyalty. From this one man would flow the greatest sorrow of the whole Charlemagne cycle. And let it not be forgotten, Charlemagne himself must be counted among the peers. For though he wore the crown, he did not stand apart. He fought, he judged, he suffered loss, and he bore the weight of command as heavily as any man among them. The poets never bind the number of the peers too tightly, for legend is not a ledger. New heroes step forward as tales demand, others fall back into shadow, and the circle widens or narrows with the needs of the song. But always, at the heart of the matter, stand Roland and his fellows, the living embodiment of courage, loyalty, and tragic faith. Now that the circle is drawn, the stories may begin. Each peer will step forward in his turn, to love, to glory, to madness, or to death. And we begin as all must begin, with the greatest of them all, Roland. And here's where we end for today. Young Tales is produced and narrated by Todd Young from Todd Young Online. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and join us next time for another story. Thank you for your support.